Let's continue with 5.5a Part 1, CAD model features, and now we're going to move into holes. Some of the sketch tools that we're going to be using are a circle, a point, circular pattern, doing some browser editing, and sharing a sketch. Some of the feature tools, we'll continue using that extrude, as well as the hole tools, and we'll be exploring the 5 different styles that they provide in there. Here's the drawings that they'll provide you with. You got a front view and a side view. All the dimensions are there that you need except for this circle. So I had to do a little bit more exploring, and when I scrolled all the way to the bottom, the last one it says is a clearance hole, the one right here, and they tell you that the diameter of that is 0.531, and it just goes through the entire thing. So that'll be the very last one we do, but I wanted to let you know that that dimension was missing from the drawing. So go ahead and start a new part file in Autodesk Inventor, and go ahead and do a save as into your 5.5a folder that we made in the last project. And you could just call it holes. So go ahead and do that. Start a new part file, save as holes in the folder. And then you're going to go ahead and start a new 2D sketch on the front plane. So go ahead and do that. Draw the diameter of your circle starting at 0, 0. Dimension it, make sure it has a 4-inch dimension. Finish that sketch and extrude it 1.5 inches. And then we'll start from there in Inventor. So this is what you should have done already. And we're ready to move into the holes. Now, to give you an idea what we're going to do, this is going to be the finished product. This is what you're going to end up turning in. So this is where we're trying to get to. So we're going to do a new sketch on this front face. And the first thing I want to do is add in the location of this hole right here. Now the reason why I start with this one is because it's located right on this vertical axis, and remember I started at 0, 0, so I know the location of this one because it's along this vertical axis, and I know the distance from the center to here. Now your question is, well, how do you know that? There is no linear dimension there. Well, they provide you with this diameter, which is the diameter of this center line circle. So if the diameter is 2.5, then we could just do half of that to do the radius. So from my 0, 0, I can go up the radius of that circle and I can locate this circle. So that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go to point. Again, I want to make sure I'm riding along this Y axis. I'm just going to click anywhere. It doesn't matter just as long as you're staying along the Y. Left click and go ahead and add that in. Hit escape to get out of the point tool, because otherwise you're going to keep clicking and add more points that you don't want. So now that that is there, we can go ahead and dimension. I can click on the center mark, or the point I mean, and then click on my 0, 0 to add in this dimension. Now we said that that was 2.5 divided by 2. Now I could just type that in, 2.5/2, and it'll calculate that for me, and I can hit enter, which is 1.25. So it just goes to show that you could type in an equation like that and it'll calculate for you. So now that is the center of our first hole that we're going to do. But before we do anything else, I want to locate the centers of all of those based off of this one, and I can do that using that circular pattern tool that they talked about up here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my circular pattern tool right here, and the first thing they want you to do is select geometry. So what do you want to pattern around? So my geometry is the center point, and then I'm going to click on axis. So where do we want to, where's the middle of that circular pattern? Well, the middle is our 0, 0 here, so I'm going to click on that, and then it starts to give me a preview of what it's trying to do. And we need to enter in how many do we want. Well, there were, 5 total holes? So I'm going to type in 5 and then say OK. So now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 5 points. So now I can go ahead and finish that sketch. and let's work on the first hole. So I'm going to click on hole. Now Autodesk intuitively thinks that you want the same hole for all 5 of those. And if you notice under placement and positions it says 5 selected, but I don't want all 5 selected. So I'm going to click this little X and clear the selection. And now under position I can select what I want. And I'm going to start with, you need to make sure that click on this little point and it'll turn red. So click on that. So now we're just working on that hole because it's different than the other 4. So now we need to look at the information we're given with the dimension. It has a diameter of 0.25 and it goes all the way through. So that's what I'm going to do now. I have just a regular hole, no seat, so that should be none. Working my way down. Termination, that's like how far it's going through it. Make sure it's through all. And then we need to type in our diameter, which was 0.25. So 0.25. And then I could say OK. So now we have our first hole. But the problem is all the other centers of the other 4 have disappeared. So this is where the share sketch option comes into play. So we can share the sketch that we previously made and keep using it. So if I expand the whole one that I just did, there's the sketch with the other 4 centers that I have located. So I can right-click that sketch and then choose Share Sketch. What that'll do is it'll make a copy of it above and outside of the hole that we just did, so now I can use it again. So that's a really cool feature. If you want to use the same sketch a few times, then you can right-click it and share it and utilize it again. That way you don't have to like redraw everything all over. So now I'm just gonna, since I shared it already, the sketch is there, it's ready to go, I'm gonna go hole. Again, it's selecting the other 4, but I don't want all 4, so I'm gonna X that out. And let's move into this one. So I'm gonna click on that one. Now that one is now a counter bore. And you can kind of see it's actually got 2 overlaid holes on top of one another. But again, the counter bore has that kind of square recessed circular hole right there, and then another one going through. So the counter bore, the square part on the top, has a diameter of 0.75 and a depth of 0.25. And then the hole going all the way through has a diameter of 0.375. So that's what we're going to add in now. So it is going to be a regular hole, but this time the seat is going to be a counter bore. And then if we scroll down, we can type in our information here. So the diameter of the counter bore was 0.75. So this should be 0.75. The depth of the counter bore was 0.25. So that's good. So if yours isn't that, change that. And then the diameter of the through hole, is 0.375. So this is 0.375. And then everything looks good. Yeah, make sure your termination is through all because you want that hole to go through all. Then I can say OK. So there is the counter bore. Notice how it maintained my shared sketch, so I can keep going. So I'm going to go hole, click on, I got to clear this selection because I don't want all 3. And then I'm going to click on this one. Now this one is a countersink. So instead of the square kind of counter bore shape, you now have this angled shape. And typically it's like for a screw head to sit nice and flush, whereas the counter bore is for typically like a bolt shape to sit down in there. But a countersink will typically be for a screw head. Now this one, the countersink has a diameter, so from here to here of 0.75. It's angled at an 82 degree, and then the rest of the hole goes all the way through and has a diameter of 0.375. So let's go do that one. So we have one selected. It's going to be a regular hole, but this time the seat is going to be a countersink. It's going to go all the way through. The direction is good. The diameter of the countersink is 0.75. Yep. The degrees is 82. Good. and then the through hole is 0.375. So that's all good. Say okay. So there's that hole. Moving on to the next one. Again, clear the selection. Click the center of this hole. And this one is going to be, now we got some threads. So what this means, it means it's a 1/4 inch. So the diameter is a 1/4 inch and it has 20 threads per inch. And the type of threads is Unified National Course. And 1B means interior threads. It's on the inside of the hole. And it's also telling you that the threads the hole doesn't go all the way through. It stops, and you can kind of see it right there. And it's kind of hard because this is overlaid, or the countersink is overlaid on top of this, but you can see that hole stopping. It only has, this symbol's depth. It only goes down 0.75. So let's go ahead and do this one. It's a little bit more tricky, a little bit more clicks to make. Alright, so I got one selected. Now, this type of hole is going to be tapped because it has threads, and you kind of see that symbol showing threads. And there is no seat, so I'm going to click None. Now, the type, okay, we got ANSI, but the size, remember, is a 1/4, so 0.25. So size, we're going to change to, if I scroll up, 0.25. Now, based off of that information, it starts to designate the type of thread that you want based off of that size. And we want a 1/4-20 UNC. Remember, 20 stands for 20 threads per inch. And UNC, Unified National Course. So it's a course thread. 2B means interior. It's on the inside. And make sure that this is not checked. We don't want the full, or do we? I'm sorry, yes. You want the threads to go the full depth of the hole. So that's for the threads, but then the termination, we want to change the distance. So the termination, that hole is not going to go all the way through. It's only going to go 0.75. And I just noticed they say it's 1B, so we want to switch this class to a 1B. Still means interior. B means interior. If you ever see an A, that means like on the outside of a hole, exterior threads. And that should be everything. Just double check all your information. Like I said, there's a lot more clicks to make in here just to make sure you have the right types of threads, the depth, so you really got to pay attention in there. And then click OK. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the last one, hole. Remember, now this one, they don't provide you with the information. It's down here on the bottom, and they're telling you it's a diameter of 0.531. It's a clearance hole, okay, and it goes all the way through. So here is your clearance hole, right? It does not have a seat, and pause. Alright, sorry, I got a little bit turned around there. So we selected it, we got our clearance hole. Now we need to look at the information for here. If you look at these boxes, I know it's a little bit different format because this is for a little bit older software, but it's the same information. We want ANSI unified screw threads for a hex head bolt with a size of a 1/2 inch, and the fit is normal. So you got ANSI unified screw thread, so go ahead and pick that. You have a hex head bolt, go ahead and choose that one. Your size is a 1/2, so we want a 1/2 inch. And then your fit is normal. And it is going through all for our termination. So termination, we want to go through all, so you're going to check that. And then the size here was 0.531. And then go ahead and click OK. Alright, so that is all good. And then I'm going to turn off the visibility of this sketch. And then we're going to have to add in one more sketch. So I'm going to go sketch on this plane. And this is really just for referencing later on. And you're going to draw a circle from here. and the diameter is going to be 2.5. And then do me a favor and just turn that into a construction layer. And then just leave that dimension there and hit Finish Sketch. I just want to be able to see that in the 3D model. And then let's go ahead and add some materials. Let's add in steel. They didn't tell us the material, so I'm just going to make this up. And we're going to also go, let's go with the steel polished on this one. So steel and steel polished. Let's update our eye properties. Close. Make sure you save. And then the last thing we need to do is add in 3D annotations. So for these, it's going to be, you're pretty much going to be going into annotate, and then you're going to be using this hole and thread node for all the holes. But let's do, okay, so let's go dimension. Let's click on this outer edge. Let's add in that diameter. I'm going to press tab. Oh, nope, we'll leave it like that. Try and keep it close to the model. Okay, because we're going to, that way we can get kind of zoomed in if we need to. Try and keep that close. And then what else do we need? We're going to need to start dimensioning all these holes. So for that, we're going to use a hole and thread node. So I'm going to click hole and thread, then I'm going to click on the edge of this hole first. And then I'm going to put that one right there. Check mark, and just keep making my way around. This one I'm going to put right here. Notice how it fills in all the information for you. So again, hole and thread, do this one, check mark on that, hole and thread, do this one, check mark, hole and thread, do this one, check mark on that, and then we need two more, I believe. We're going to go leader text now. And I'm going to click on somewhere, let's say right here-ish. And I'm going to type in created, all caps, created by, and then put your name. Say OK. And then the last thing we'll do, oh, I got to move that a little bit. There we go. And the last thing I want to do is just put a note for materials. So again, leader text, and maybe I'll go here. Try and keep this close. Material, colon, steel. Say OK. All right, and then I believe that's everything I wanted you to do. Yep. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and screen clip this. So, and actually go ahead and hit save, and then Windows Shift S. Now when you screen clip, scoot the model over to the left of the screen, and all I want is the model browser and your model with 3D annotations, and then go ahead and put that in your binder here and resize the picture as needed, and then you can get your points.